To, co kryje się pod tym tekstem.
What lies beneath the word, the term graphic art, has long escaped all boundaries. This is not only because modern, digital graphic techniques are exceptionally colorful, far beyond just hand-colored etchings that might have been found in 19th century books or magazines.
Było kiedyś w XIX-wiecznych książkach czy czasopismach gdzieś tam znaleźć.
Today, graphics are full of color, digital graphics, dynamic graphics, something we couldn't even imagine 50 years ago.
Wyobrazić nawet chyba 50 lat temu. To jest skomplikowane.
It's complicated. Graphic art is a slightly different kind of artistic expression compared to painting or sculpture. It fits within those artistic disciplines. While it was once treated as a reproductive technique, for quite some time now, it has been regarded as a separate artistic field.
Od dłuższego czasu jest traktowane jako osobna dziedzina artystyczna.
What fascinates me about graphic art is the anticipation of the result. It's always a surprise. For instance, the print is reversed, left to right, compared to the printing plate. Additionally, what I create on the printing plate doesn't always turn out as expected in the final print. I love graphic art because it's challenging. That's what inspires me most about this technique. Every time I face a challenge, it drives me forward. Why graphic art? I really enjoy manual work, and graphic art allows me to work directly on the printing plate. Unlike on a computer where the result is seen after some time, here I can manipulate the printing plate manually, and the result is always unexpected, a surprise. What distinguishes graphic art from drawing or painting is the ability to reproduce an image. The use of a printing plate lets me reuse the same image multiple times in my work. In a broader sense, graphics can refer to any image. However, we divide it into different categories, and here we are dealing with graphic arts. Of course, posters or anything created with a computer also fall under the category of graphics. The entire concept of graphics originates from the idea of printing. Graphics is printing. It's all about this process, the so-called act of printing. The goal was to replicate that initial image or text. This dates back to the 15th century when printing was invented. The printing plate, in a sense, could be seen as an early form of a photocopy machine. Initially craftsmen and later artists, this distinction is important to highlight, tried to use the printing plate to replicate drawings and paintings. Today, things look very different, especially when we consider industrial applications. Graphics has branched into two areas: graphic art, like what surrounds me here, which is simply about creating art, and on the other hand, graphic design, which is used for creating posters or even prints on clothing. It's essentially the same concept. Someone designs the initial pattern, and then it's replicated many times.
A z drugiej strony grafika użytkowa, czyli wykorzystywanie jej do tworzenia plakatów, do tworzenia.
When we go to a brand store, we find the same t-shirts in every location. This is the continuation of the idea that began hundreds of years ago, where an artist created a single work that could be reproduced multiple times.
No właśnie, powielając ideę tego, co te kilkaset lat temu artysta miał w założeniu, czyli tworzył jedną pracę, którą mógł odbijać.
In the Department of Graphic Design at the Academy of Fine Arts in Kraków, we have 5 different studios. These include lithography, woodcut, engraving, intaglio printing, and serigraphy. The techniques are differentiated based on the type of substrate used. For lithography, the substrate is stone. For woodcut, it is a wooden board. For engraving and intaglio printing, metal matrices are used, whereas serigraphy is a form of stencil printing. Graphic techniques are categorized based on the area of the printing plate from which the wood is made. We have intaglio printing, which uses metal techniques, relief printing, such as woodcut, and planographic printing, which includes lithographic techniques.
Technikach litograficznych.
It's a highly complex technological process. To achieve good quality graphics, one must understand the graphic technique, and that knowledge comes from only creating several, sometimes dozens of graphics. Unfortunately, it doesn't take just 5 minutes. This process can be quite time-consuming. For instance, you need to prepare the plate, polish it, then coat it with an acid-resistant substance.
potem ją pokryć jakimś środkiem kwasowym.
Draw the design, etch it, make the first print, apply any necessary corrections, and then create subsequent prints until the student or the person working on the graphic is satisfied with the result.
Żeby student, czy powiedzmy osoba, która wykonuje tą grafikę, była zadowolona. To jest taki, mówię,
As I said, it's a complex process that can take weeks. However, with significant student engagement, it can sometimes be accomplished within a single week. In the Intaglio printing studio, we work with metal printing plates. We use aluminium or titanium zinc plates, which we etch, cut, or texture using roulettes or carborundum.
Jakami bądź korundem. Następnie drukujemy z wklęsłych partii matrycy.
Printing is done from the recessed parts of the matrix. To prepare a metal matrix, it must first be polished and coated with either varnish or rosin. Once prepared, it is etched in nitric acid. Alternatively, there are dry techniques where various metal tools are used directly on plain aluminium plates.
Działamy na blasze aluminiowej zwykle.
Next, ink is applied to the matrix, worked into the etched grooves using heat from a stove, and the excess is wiped off so that the ink remains only in the recessed or engraved areas. The print is made on an intaglio press under felt. A single matrix can produce dozens of prints. Interestingly, even though some of these techniques date back 500 years, students still create innovative, contemporary works using them. Additionally, we have the option of integrating digital techniques, arranging images with a computer, and embedding them into the pieces created in the studio.
I wklejaniu, wmontowywaniu go w powstające tutaj prace.
Ja osobiście wybrałam ASP w Krakowie, dlatego że
I chose the Academy of Fine Arts in Kraków because I was looking for diversity of the workshops. There are fewer and fewer schools where you can combine both graphics art and design. Here, we have that opportunity, which was very important to me because, in my opinion, these two fields are deeply interconnected. From the very first year, we have the chance to explore all the workshops. Year by year, we make decisions about which workshops to focus on, gradually specializing in those that interest us most.
w te, które po prostu nas interesują.
There's no trend dictating that a certain topic or graphic technique is currently fashionable. No, not at all. It depends more on the personality of the individual pursuing the work. We focus on nurturing the student's individuality rather than imposing specific themes. Here, we don't assign topics. Students create their own projects, ensuring technological precision while exploring themes they choose themselves.
Temat, który sami narzucają.
As I said, we emphasize developing artistic skills rather than just producing skilled graphic technicians. I believe that's what graphic art should be about.
Technikami graficznymi, tylko bardziej artystami. A grafika, myślę, że temu powinna służyć.
Our faculty is very popular in terms of the number of people wanting to study here because we offer such a wide range of activities. For example, we have animated film, poster design, book design, graphic art, painting, drawing, and digital graphics. So when students graduate, they leave with a very comprehensive skill set. Why graphic art? I think it's because there are so many possibilities in creating graphic art, with countless techniques and fields to develop in later.
Czemu grafika?
You can pursue graphics and still be a painter, or you can work as a designer. For me, it's amazing that these two things can be combined. It might seem like we just have a finished design and we execute it. However, before starting the process, we often have to prepare the matrix, depending on the technique.
Jako projektant i to jest dla mnie super, że można te dwie rzeczy łączyć.
Preparing the matrix often takes up the majority of the work.
I wykonujemy go. Jednak zanim zaczynamy sam proces, to musimy często przygotować matrycę, też zależy się od tego, w jakiej technice, ale często to jest większość pracy.
I think a very important aspect of our work in the studio is the fact that the instructors are practitioners. We have many well-known, internationally recognized figures in the field of graphic art. These are active professionals who are working in this field. The way the studio operates allows students to observe what others are doing and learn from their progress. I believe it's very educational for students to work individually while simultaneously observing each other and seeing the results that can be achieved using the techniques practiced here.
Pracują tu indywidualnie, natomiast obserwują się nawzajem i widzą, jakie rezultaty można osiągnąć przy stosowanych tutaj technikach.
What's always inspiring during classes is learning from other students.
Studentów, słuchanie też
Listening to
korektywy.
feedback on others' work is incredibly helpful and constructive, that's for sure. We also learn a lot from our professors, but also from books and exhibitions. We often visit exhibitions, especially during art history classes, which is definitely very enriching.
Na wystawy tutaj na zajęciach z historii sztuki, więc to na pewno jest bardzo rozwijające.
We are at the Silesian Museum, in the space of the old bathhouse, where we have the opportunity to experience the results of the Polish Print Triennial Competition, now in its 12th edition. This competition has been held for many years and is the most important graphic art event in Poland.
Już od wielu lat ten konkurs i to wydarzenie, najważniejsze wydarzenie graficzne na mapie.
One could say that the heart of contemporary Polish graphic art beats here in Katowice, nowhere else. It is home to the largest collection and the biggest exhibition of contemporary graphic art in the country.
Współczesnej grafiki w Polsce.
Today, graphic art is a fascinating medium. While it is undoubtedly an art form, it also engages in commenting on reality, often layering and interpreting facts. Graphic art is also a part of art that takes a stand, reflecting engagement with various contemporary issues,
Jest zaangażowana. Możemy tu więc zobaczyć i takie
such as climate change, conventions, and religion. This is not just abstract or figurative art.
religią, więc to nie tylko
Even though graphic art is sometimes stereotypically associated with depictions of saints, you won't find such a thing here.
świętych, no tu ich
Rather, you'll encounter a complete reversal of those traditional approaches.
takich tendencji klasycznych, jeżeli chodzi o grafikę.
I believe the modernity of contemporary graphic art should attract and intrigue everyone.
Powinna każdego przyciągnąć i zainteresować, ponieważ myślę,
A viewer engaging with these contemporary graphic artworks might even find it challenging to determine whether they're looking at a painting or a piece created using graphic techniques.
z obrazem, czy tak naprawdę z techniką, czy z obrazem wykonanym technikami graficznymi.
Today's graphic artists are often representatives of the younger generation, those shaping new conventions and definitions of the medium. These are promising artists for whom participation in such a major exhibition and expansive display space offers an excellent opportunity for significant promotion of their work.
Wystawie i przestrzeni ekspozycyjnej jest szansą na po pierwsze dużą promocję samej
It also allows them to reach a broader audience, both nationally and internationally, as the museum regularly welcomes visitors from around the world. These viewers have the chance to engage with graphic art,
i mają okazję
a field with a well-established position, yet one that continuously competes with other artistic styles and techniques.
stylami, technikami tworzenia sztuki.
Myślę, że wchodząc na wystawę...
I think that walking into the Polish Print Triennial exhibition at the Silesian Museum, we get a complete picture of what is happening in contemporary graphic art. It shows how some artists draw from traditional styles, while others experiment. Here we see the work of the competition's laureate, Paweł Krzywdziak. As we can see, this isn't just a single piece of art or a single print. It's an entire wall covered with prints. This immediately conveys the idea the artist repeatedly prints his matrix, striving to perfect the spherical motif. Technologically, it reflects techniques from 400 years ago, hundreds of hand-drawn and hand-carved lines. There's no computer or machine involved. Everything is done entirely by hand. Here's an interesting thing. I wonder myself whether this still qualifies as graphic art or not. Here, Marek Grzyb undertakes such experiments. As I mentioned, the exhibition is very open to all kinds of media. There isn't a single scrap of paper here, really. Here we have a sculpture, bas-relief, composition, installation, and somehow it is still defined as graphic art. But what we're talking about is exploring solutions, searching for what graphic art will become in the future, and I think this is a good example of that. In this space, an interesting fact is that sometimes the matrix itself, rather than the final print, is the artwork. For example, debut artist Karolina Lefek, who was recognized in the debut category, presented a woodcut matrix as her work.
Dała na swoją pracę matrycę, czyli właśnie drzeworytnicze elementy. Tutaj też ciekawy przykład.
Another fascinating piece involves thousands of yellow sticky notes rather than a single sheet of paper. These post-its are commonly used for notes or everyday reminders.
To, co trzeba zapamiętać. To jest też ten motyw, gdzie
This blurs the line between digital designs created on a computer and handmade matrices, offering a fresh perspective that breaks traditional expectations.
przełamujące pewne wrażenia.
Marlena Biczak's work might seem unassuming at first glance, a black rectangle reminiscent of Malevich's black square. However, her piece is densely covered with thousands of tiny indentations and irregularities into which the ink must penetrate. The surface is so packed that no space is left untouched by the ink. This intricate process of creating the black base alone likely required weeks of painstaking effort, literally perforating the
To
matrix.
jest jakby tą podstawą. No to jest pewnie praca na kilka tygodni, może na pewno setki godzin takiej mozolnego dziurkowania dosłownie tej matrycy. Żeby potem
The next stage involves meticulously polishing parts of the surface to bring light out of the darkness, with the white areas representing the light in the composition. Looking at it while walking through the exhibition,
patrząc na to tak po prostu,
it might seem like some images, some spaces, some mountains. But knowing the technique behind it all, reaching back 200 to 300 years, it's truly a significant amount of physical work that had to be done.
fizycznej, którą trzeba było wykonać.
Another noteworthy artist is Karol Pomykawa, a repeat finalist of previous editions.
Już niejednokrotnie był laureatem naszego Triennale w poprzednich edycjach.
In this exhibition, Karol presents a reflective piece portraying a human figure, perhaps isolated or slightly surreal. It's a deeply contemplative work that deserves attention. The white lines in his work are created by painstakingly carving them out of linoleum with chisels.
Musi dłutem wydłubać w tym linoleum. Z tego, co jak też
From conversations with Karol, I learned that his process involves hours of meditative carving, line by line, dot by dot, to form the entire composition.
Kreska po kresce, kropka po kropce tych elementów, żeby potem stworzyć całą tą kompozycję.
I became interested in graphic art during my studies. I was lucky enough to join Professor Krzysztof Szymanowicz's studio, and he instilled in me a love for graphic art.
I jakby on zaraził mnie miłością do grafiki. Byłem też
I also remember attending his exhibition in Lublin, and when I saw his work in person, I was hooked. I clearly remember the moment I knew this was what I wanted to do. I consciously avoid using the term graphic design because it has many meanings.
Ma bardzo wiele znaczeń i w obecnych czasach grafika znaczy bardzo wiele.
And today it encompasses so
Na
much.
przykład określenie grafika artystyczna albo linoryt. To
As they more accurately describe what I do.
ja zajmuję się linorytem.
I specialize in linocut, which is one of the graphic techniques.
Połączenie rysunku, malarstwa.
In short, it combines drawing, painting, and sculpture.
Trzy dziedziny, które od zawsze uprawiałem i które kocham.
Linocut allows me to merge these three fields,
Który jest bardzo ważny w tej technice.
which I have always practiced and loved. It lets me dive into the creative process, which is crucial in this technique. It involves creating a drawing on a matrix, which is then carved, and the matrix is printed onto paper using graphic presses. You could say that linocut is essentially a large stamp. This description best captures its defining feature. The drawing is carved with special gouges on a special matrix. We also use gouges for points. Interestingly, I created the world's first gouge for dots linocut. It's a product I designed, created, and manufacture myself. I'm proud to say that hundreds of thousands of artists around the world now use this gouge to create dots linocuts. Dots linocut is a very unique technique, invented by Poles. I think it's a global phenomenon, because traditionally linocuts are associated with simple forms, usually in black and white, while dots linocut allows artists to create various gradients and play with light and shadow. The works created with dots linocut are truly amazing.
I rzeczywiście te prace, które są stworzone w technice linorytu punktowego są...
Many artists from around the world come to my studio in Warsaw to see these pointillistic works in person and learn this technique.
Prace punktowe na żywo oraz nauczyć się tej techniki. Moim celem...
My primary goal is to promote Polish dots linocut. I also created the world's first collection of Polish masters of dots linocut, which can be seen in my studio in Warsaw. I strive to collect and assemble a collection of the most important creators who have influenced this technique. Among these works are pieces by Stanisław Baldyga, which are very realistic and depict natural forms. I also have works by Krzysztof Szymonowicz, my mentor, who passed on all his knowledge about dots linocut to me. Additionally, I own works by Kiliański, Grzegorz Mazurek, and each of these pieces is unique and important to me, as they contributed to my development and inspired me to pursue dots linocut. Polish graphic art, in my opinion, is one of the best in the world, because we have artists who create incredible works and win the most prestigious awards at international graphic art competitions. This is something that truly sets us apart. I think this is a trend, and I can describe it that way because, from my experience, I see that each year the interest grows. Education is a very important element, because only when we understand what graphic art is and how it is created, do we realize how much time and effort the creator has invested in producing a particular work. More and more people who are not directly connected to graphic art visit my studio, and I know that they already understand how the graphic is made. Every time I create a new series of prints, I try to come up with works that challenge me, either formally or technically, because overcoming these challenges drives me forward. I don't like creating things I already know. I consciously skip areas that come more easily to me, because I feel that by tackling different topics, I can continue to grow.